Okay, batch recording this one after the last one. Sorry, still sniffling. I'm sorry. It's. We moved to a place about a year ago, and now that spring is happening, apparently my body's like I don't even know what these plants are anymore, even though I'm from here. We've been 10 years away, and man, they're kicking my butt. So I'm sorry, but I got to get some of these videos out. Trying to do one a day still. So in the second volume or second episode of the Idea Maze, I wanted to talk you through this idea that I had for a voice-based networking concept. So let me give you context. What I am going to talk about in this one is actually stemming from two places. The first one is Y Combinator. I think one of the funniest things that happens is that Y Combinator will, no shade to them at all, right? I've applied to them probably once a year, it feels like. Not this year because I kind of figured out how to do things without venture capital funding, which has been fun. Because I always thought I needed it, and then I realized if I could just build something that didn't require capital on the upfront, you don't need it anymore unless you really just kind of feel the need to have it. And fortunately, like, I don't want to build a company. I'd rather just build products that make money. And I think that should be fine for now. And so what they do, which is really fun, is that they, depending on what the company does, they will have these crazy traction numbers. And one of the things that's really interesting is, like, these companies, when they do the demo day, will be like, hey, like, I pivoted all the way through, and then in the last, like, 14 days of the program, I decided on my idea, and then I got $1 million in revenue run rate. And you're just like, what? That's amazing. That's cool. But what's crazy is that the logos that they have sometimes are really huge companies, sometimes not. But more often than not, all of them are coming from the YC network. Now, what's cool about it is that it's essentially a crucible, right? If they are selling to people in the network, the people in the network know how hard it is to build a company. And so they're going through and saying, like, I will not use your product. You need to do something different, right? And I think that's really valuable, because if Brex is saying they're not going to use your product, then that's saying something. However, if you can get Brex to agree on your product, then you can tell other people that you got Brex on your product, and their CEO will back you. And so you have this, like, symbiotic relationship. So that's the first thing. I think it's kind of funny, but I'm surprised more people don't do it. The second thing is that I had a conversation with a VC that's going to be trying out Double Me. They're our first customer there. I think it's great. But they asked if we could potentially build out. We were talking about, like, they were saying, we want some type of network where people can refer each other to each other, and it would create warm intros within the community and things like that. And then if we can have some of our customers be some of our portfolio companies be customers of other portfolio companies, like, everyone can kind of, like, help each other, rising tide style. Because, like, most of our portfolio companies don't even know that what the other portfolio companies in our portfolio do. And I was like, oh, I could probably build that. By the way, it's kind of like YC. Like, I feel like YC shouldn't be the only people that get to do that. Kind of introduce them to each other, and then say, oh, all of our company's revenues are $200,000 because they all just sold to each other, and they're just recycling the dollar back and forth. But that made me think, okay, I'm going to do this product for them. I'm going to ask them if I can actually turn it outwardly. Because if I can turn it outwardly, maybe I give them a cut of revenue for every VC fund. And of course, they know VC funds, so then they can refer people in, and then now I have customers, right? But if they don't want that, what I thought could be an interesting model is a B2C version of that. I've used Clay Earth a lot in the past. I don't use it as much anymore because I hate meetings. And One thing that I always loved is that they update like LinkedIn status and things like that, and they keep a contact. But I thought, what if you bypass the need to look at LinkedIn and X? I have a lot of experience in voice and AI at this point. A lot of experience, like hundreds of hours of experience, maybe even 1,000 at this point on voice and AI. And so I kind of understand a way that we could do it by going around needing like LinkedIn and X APIs, which all cost money and go through a development review process and a product review process. Even if you want to change just a small feature, you still got to go through the review process, right? What if we could build something that actually allows the individuals to update the social graph of a user? What if we gave people what YC has, but for their own social network? What would that look like? What would it look like if I can automatically send a check-in update to my friend who just got a job at an accelerator, and he can call a number and just give an update on this job and like what he's looking for and what he needs, and do you know anyone who has bought real estate in this new market that I'm in, or closed out real estate in this new market that I left? Do you know anyone? Well, I don't know. Maybe maybe someone has a brother somewhere that does this. But what's really interesting is if I had check-ins from everyone else in my social graph, and I found out that someone lived, like grew up, born and raised in the city that he is moving to now. And then I can reach out to that person and say, hey, do you have any relatives that are in real estate that you trust, or friends that you trust from high school or college? Maybe you've done some deals for your parents in real estate. You should meet with this guy. Like, can y'all exchange information, please? That's the type of power that can happen when you have this social graph that is moving and it's living and it's breathing. It's very compelling, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't require a lot of input from the person who is sharing, who has the social graph, and the people who are nodes on that social graph. Because depending on how big the social graph gets and the overlapping between other users, you might start to interact with a problem, right? What if my friend is now doing check-ins for 500 people that are also on our network? How do you build a product that allows him to systematically share out his check-in from today about his move? But he gets to share it to multiple people that are also on this platform. Not just me, but me and our other mutual friend and a mutual friend of his with 3 other people and whatever. And all of a sudden everyone gets kind of like a ding. And then now they have an updated aspect of their social graph, right? So it's me being able to give a link and have people, or a phone call, a phone number, and have people call and update. But it's also the ability to have those people upload their check-ins to the social graph, and then everyone that they know that's on the platform can also kind of opt into their updates, which then means that for us, it gets cheaper as our network grows because they no longer need to send out the phone calls. Every single phone call we do has like 3 or 4 different AI integrations on top of it in most of the things that we do, right? And so, okay, picking up. So over time, what happens is that our costs go down as our network gets bigger, because over time, my friend doesn't need to call in to 200 other people that are also looking for updates to their social graph so they can continue to be helpful. They just click an opt-in button, and now their one update is now shared to 200 people. And therefore, it cuts down on 200 calls that our infrastructure would have to handle, 200 different types of transcriptions. It just gets shared. So that's kind of how we're thinking of this. So That's a lot of background, but that's essentially what we're looking to do. And so in this idea maze, I'm essentially like explaining this kind of idea that I have with them with ChatGPT. I'm having it like tell me. So it went way too fast on what it should be called. But I started to go back and forth with it because it got what I was going for: passive network mapping, query a network. We did want to have who's open a new ID. Like we want to have who's in NYC. We want to have all these information that we can have where people can do updates and everything. And so this is the use cases: founders trying to warm up their own network before fundraising, people returning from burnout trying to re-engage with friends passively, HR teams querying what internal emails are working on. So you see how it's kind of like really broad, and then over time, as we go through the idea maze and I read all of its responses, I'm kind of sculpting. So it's giving me a big like pot of clay, and I gave it a huge pot of clay, and then it sculpts a little, and I sculpt a little, then it sculpts a little, then I sculpt a little. So it's saying like, okay, this is where that is kind of coming from. So then I ask it, what's the value of this product to people? Who would actually pay for it? So then it's going through and it's saying like, here's, who would pay for it? What's the value that they get? Effortless check-ins with their network without guilt or spam. I don't think that's valuable. A living map of who's doing what in their life. I don't think anyone's paying for that. AI-powered insight. I don't think anyone's paying for that. So it's kind of going through, and then it kind of goes, okay, well, who would actually pay? Founders and indie professionals. And it said they need warm collaborators and whatever, but their network is cold. I think that could be true, but I think if someone like me is already feeling like their network is cold, they're not going to then send out to all of their people that they have loose networks with, hey, will you call this number so I can get an update on your life? Like they're not going to do that. Community builders and curators, HR and talent teams. I told you I did not want this to be for them, but I could see why this could be interesting. And actually, I could see myself making this into a own separate app. Because another thing that I realized recently, like yesterday, is that now that I have the rails for certain things, I now can build any rail on top of that, or any platform on top of that, right? Now that I have Double Me, I can essentially create Double Me for any industry. I can create the Double Me platform for VCs to do screening. I can create the Double Me platform for, what's another thing that I'm exploring now? People who make who make knowledge courses like on Teachable and whatever. Cold DMing them and say, hey, would you like to essentially create a double for your classmates to call into? They'll pay you a subscription to get access to your double, and then they pay for a subscription to get access to your double. And then they can either text your double or they can call your double, and it's all trained upon all of your class assets. And so essentially, like, they get if you take a course, you then can pay $10 a month to have access to my double full-time 24/7, right? So you see, like, I now have the Double Me foundation, so now I can build anything on top of that. Same thing here. Once I build this product out for what I think will be community builders, curators, and event organizers, accelerators, and VCs. Like I said, I'm already going to build it for a VC. I just need to see if they'll allow me to take the code quickly and then reverse it rather than having to build it again from scratch, or if they want me to just hand them over the code, whatever. So I could essentially turn it over and do it for HR teams and make it an internal tool, but I think I can make it an external tool. So I said, I like this for community builders, event organizers, accelerators, VCs, trade organizations. So basically, like, who would experience the best? I didn't word that correctly, but it got what I wanted. It said, this is why it's perfect. They want to look connected to everyone in their community without burning time on hundreds of shallow one-on-ones while still delivering real value and serendipity to the members. So instead of chasing updates, let your network call you through their own voice and let AI summarize what matters. Not really actually compelling. Now that I read that back, I think what really the value is that it's able to connect, like a lot of communities, the brilliance of it isn't the hub, it is how the hub connects the nodes. And I think that what this application is essentially a way to automatically connect the hub to the nodes without having like a Slack-like interface where you're hunting. We have to go through a whole directory and no one's saying what they can do or what they can do. And even if they are, you're not really sure. But with what I'm thinking of this product would be is that essentially the person who's a community organizer or the accelerator or the VC is making warm intros within the portfolio so that no portfolio company is looking down a list of portfolios or of other portfolio companies and going like, I wish I could reach out to that CEO, but I don't have their email. I don't have their phone number. I don't even know if they want me to reach out to them. They like everyone says that they want to help, but like, do they actually? What if they're busy? You see what I mean? So this is going to actually get past that by putting the onus on the people who invested in them to make the connection, but it's going to automate the entire thing. So here's how they experience it end to end. That's probably not how I'm actually going to do it. But then I ask, how would they be able to use this data and create relationships amongst their member community? So, yep, it's going exactly where I thought it would go, exactly where I believed that it should go, community-led discovery. Members could also query their own graph. Who else is hiring a founding designer? Who went to South by Southwest last month? Who's going to South by Southwest, which I think would be cool. So people could link up and meet, but you wouldn't know who's going to South by Southwest if you didn't have these check-ins. See what I mean? Why this works so well. And actually this product has actually spawned like earlier today. I was like, oh, I wonder if someone could just give check-ins like verbally and it could turn those check-ins into an investor newsletter, because a lot of people say that most people don't write investor newsletters. So what if this could turn it into an investor newsletter? So why this works so well, natural fiction value. People and priorities change constantly. So, it's kind of getting to what I think it should be. But I keep asking, like, why would someone pay for this? And then I started going, well, what if it was B2C? Like, I get where the B2B range is, right? But how would the B2C work out? And so that's when it started getting really interesting with like the warm start problem, which I've only heard the cold start problem. So that's interesting. Career momentum, pay with status or gamified features. And then right here was really interesting. Your B2C is virality and data graph creation, but B2B is where the revenue and retention are. I think that's interesting because it gets people to build the graph. And then this gets people to use it and pay for it repeatedly, which I want to definitely dig into that more with the O3. I just haven't, you know what, let's just go ahead and ask it right now. Can you dig into this more and explain it in detail? Yeah. I'm going O3 on this just to really kind of calibrate it. All right, going back up. Where were we? While it's working on that. Okay, so I think at some point, so B2C, warm start problem. Okay, cool. So then I say, because right here, I think it says it'll become a personal CRM engine somewhere. I don't remember. It says if you want to link to the social flex angle, track how many connections you created and earn a superconnector status. And it said product hunt for relationships. I really like that. And then I challenged it in saying that B2C shouldn't be free, because now I'm starting to think of it as clay, as like an evolution of what clay is, and not the clay sales product, the clay.earth, which is like a personal CRM, which I think is amazing. I'm not trying to beat them by any means. I just think I might have found a better mousetrap and would love to sell this product to them and then like sail off to the sunset. Because I just think this is just something that's just cool to build now that I have some experience in building it. I know that a living CRM with ward leads, a searchable memory of everyone's past responses. Yes. Warm intro engine, which is actually the most important thing. That's why I wanted to build it. I don't really care about gamification. I don't know if they do either. I think it's just really so that people can feel smart. People love making warm intros because it makes them feel cool. So we're essentially making it easy for them to do that. I'm not going to do, token-based pricing model. So it started out with a pricing model. I thought it was pretty good, but, even this right here, you've used 9 to 10 tokens. Your network is lighting up. It's cool. Just encourage usage. So then I said, if B2C wanted unlimited, what will we charge? So now I'm trying to get into like, what will we charge, just so that I can understand like what the business model would be. Because sometimes when I go through the idea maze, it'll stop me in my tracks if I just realize what I have to charge. The fact that I can do this and do so, as you can see, I've completely peeled off on the B2C because I know what the B2B is going to be, right? I know how to. I think I have an idea clearly of how to sell this to like VCs, accelerators, and it's basically by doing exactly what I sold the other VC on, which is Y Combinator already does this. The only reason you don't is because you don't have the tech to do it, and I built it. So you're welcome. Pay us some money. But now I'm looking at it and it's talking about like relationship OS. This is all B2C, a smart CRM layer, timeline of conversations and auto tagged interests, relationship temperature based on the sentiment, mood, tone. That's a little extreme. I would never do that. Auto draft 5 to 10 warm intros a month based on changes in network data. Yeah, man, I'm really loving this. Oh, and then it was like, hey, optional add-on, white glove concierge. It doesn't need to be white glove. In fact, like I saw this in the what was that book called? The Innovation Stack by the people who created Square. Great book if you ever are interested in how people can innovate with micro iterations that stack on top of each other to create a product that's differentiated and innovative. I think that's a really great book for that. But I was like, we don't need concierge because it's the same reason that Square, I think for like the first 8 years, it never had a phone number because it believed that that their product, if at any point a user needs to call a phone number to get help, then their product isn't good enough. And I don't think I need white glove because I think the onboarding needs to be perfect. So why would I need a white glove service to onboard people? Nothing that I build needs to make people feel special or cool or secretive or whatever. Not on purpose, at least. So then I'm saying a lot of stuff. I basically probably did this all through voice transcription because of how long it is. But I'm essentially putting stuff back into them, and I'm saying we want to get, we're going to give away automatic connections. We're not going to make them force it because I think up here in like the pricing model, it said that we were going to make them do manual connections. And I was like, that defeats the point. So then we're going through this, it's kind of helping me with a little bit of like how we can map out the pricing model. So then, right? So again, I've never used ChatGPT for this either. In the last video, I said I never used it to help plan out features. For this one, I'm essentially going back and forth with it saying like, hey, this should have this and that should have that, to essentially make it so that the tiers make sense for what someone's paying for it. I'm not trying to make sense of the price yet, because I haven't even talked about cost. I'm just trying to make sure that it understands that superconnectors should have 10 matches per week. Like 3 matches per week is not enough to be at a third tier of anything. It's not even mentioned price. Just at a third tier. I'm like, no, you need 40 matches. You need 40 like matches per. If they're a super connector, they're going to want to connect probably 40 or more matches per month. And then we might have some packs that they can buy like 50 matches or whatever at a time. Or 50 matches and 50 voice check-ins. I think even that's probably, I think I bumped that to 100 at some point. So then we started going into like, okay, how deep should the summaries be for each contact? Light, deep. And then graph access. So essentially we're going to have a search that says like, let's say that they meet someone that they're like, oh, this person, it would be, I think I know someone in my network that can help this person. I need to find out. So I want them to be able to go to their search and then type in, I need someone in this city that is skilled at mergers and acquisitions that's a lawyer or that has a connection to a lawyer. I want them to be able to find this pretty easily. And I know exactly what all of these features will do. I'm not going to go into that because that doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we're going into cost, right? Does that pricing model align with OpenAI, Superbase, 11 Labs usage based on the tiers? So I'm essentially saying we already talked about the tiers. You know how I already told you what the product features would be, right? So now you tell me if these tiers make sense. So it's going through like the cost anchors. These are all probably wrong, by the way. Anytime you're going to ask it to estimate, it's pulling from information that might be old because it's ChatGPT. So actually, Gemini would probably be the best use of this because it's using somewhat up-to-date Google links and inferences, where I think ChatGPT is still on 2024. I think I'm not positive. I don't think they're doing real time in this. Well, I mean, I used O3, so maybe it is doing search, but probably not. Okay, anyways, so I'm assuming that all of these are wrong, but at least gives me a breakdown because it starts to get to like, okay, how are all these check-ins going, right? And then I'm saying, let's also, because it's saying that the check-ins will be, I think it was saying 1 to 2 minutes. And I was like, oh yeah, voice duration, 1 to 2 minutes on average. And I was like, that seems light. What if someone's a long-winded talker? That doesn't make sense. So I said, let's also assume that the check-ins could be up to 5 minutes because that would increase the cost basis. And right here it says it definitely affects your cost assumptions, especially with 11 Labs. And we're not going to use OpenAI transcript summarization. Oh yeah, we will. Because 11 Labs will do the voice processing. We'll take the transcript as well from Open Labs. We'll roll them through OpenAI transcript summarization, and then we'll have that be uploaded into Superbase under that content record. So all that to say is that now we're looking at the cost estimate as per 5 minute check-in, right? So now we have a better idea of what each thing will cost based on what we're all doing. Okay, so now it's revalidating the pricing tiers to make sure that they make sense and that they work. It's now giving me margins for everything. So 58% for the connector, 20-25% for super connector, and unlimited will be at 50% margin. So we'll make more money on the connector tier, 58%. Now, let's go into the margins a little deeper, right? So then I ask another question, but then I keep seeing it saying turbo. I was like, no one uses turbo anymore. It's 4.0. So then I was like, oh shoot, it doesn't know what we're going to be using as our models. So then I say we'll have memory and context, which means that we'll be using embeddings and we'll be using RAG to do semantic search with our embeddings. I've gone through what that is before, but I need to create a separate video on what this means. But essentially it allows for semblances of memory to be included inside of your product. And you need to do that by creating a vector database, which you can do with Superbase, by the way. And so it's now talking about memory embedding because it knows I'm going to be using text embedding small, which is OpenAI's. But we might have to do large. No, probably small because people will start talking about the same things. No one's super complex in this world. We would do like large for our quarter chats product. So it's going through and like calculating like what the cost would be. So if we're doing 100,000 check-ins across all of our users, then it's probably going to be $10, right? Now it's talking about storage strategy. Okay, here we go. What do we ever want to see? Because remember, I said that they were using GPT-4 Turbo and GPT-3. Now I'm talking about 4.0, which means you need to update what your assumptions are based on the models we're going to use. Now we could use something like 4.0 mini for some of this stuff, but we might use 4.0 and we're definitely not staying with GPT-4 Turbo or 3.5. Like we're past that. Now they've already launched 4.1 now within the API. So we're probably going to use GPT-4, and we're probably going to use future-heavy reasoning models at a later point, especially when it comes to matching generation between two contexts. Generating warm intro copy won't be too hard. We can probably still use 4.0. We don't really need things. Oh, synthesizing a relationship timeline. That we'll probably need to also use 4.0. But I think the matching generation will probably be the most one where we would probably use something like 04 mini high or 03. Maybe even 04 mini, honestly. Because it would be multi-step. So maybe 03. Okay, so now it's saying, so now I told it that we need to update the pricing given that we want to do relationship timeline, warm intro to copy, and match generation between two contacts. So now it's going through the tiers again. Again, it's saying 3.5. I'm going to have to go back later and say deep would probably be more, it probably is 4.0, and up here is probably 4.0 mini. Relationship timeline is probably going to be 4.0 copy. Warm intro is going to be 4.0. That's going to be easy. And the match generation is probably going to be reasoning. So now it's going again. Per user monthly cost model at 5 min check-in average. So you see we're getting really kind of complex. Again, I've never used ChatGPT to do this. Again, they're also probably wrong, but at least it gives you an idea of what like margins could be. And we know we're making most of the money on this $20 a month thing. We'll probably lose money on the unlimited, which is why you probably saw me saying, hey, we should charge $1,000 for this. Okay, so now it's getting a little bit more information. And then I ask it to show me margins for each tier. So it's saying what the margin should be, but I think I adjusted those. Oh, to use percentages and not dollar and not decimal. So now it's going through and using percentages right here where the margin is going to be. So we'll lose money on the free cost, but that'll only be 3 cents per person, I think, per call. Oh, for all the check-ins and the matches combined. So that'll be 93 cents. That's 95% margin. $8.50, that's 82% margin. $24, that's 84% margin, and $280, which is 76% margin for the unlimited. Oh, and this is what I just said. Can you dig into this and explain in more detail? So that's the idea maze for this product. Again, it'll probably be split out into multiple different ways. We'll probably have an internal HR tool. That's risky. We'll probably have an internal HR tool. We'll probably have one that is probably what we're closer to talking about, pushing out really soon, which is going to be for accelerators, VCs, and like anything that has a portfolio. We're communicating in between them. Maybe like alumni networks would be really interesting. Oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that yet. Probably build a alumni network tool on top of this Rails. And, you basically just duplicate the code base. And now we have wrappers of our own code and that are AI wrappers. It's weird. And then we'll probably do a B2C version of this, which we'll probably do last because it will probably make the least amount of money. So there it is. The idea maze, volume 2. That was long.